What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, things got ugly for Xbox, kind of as expected going into the week, but the announcement of thousands of layoffs, studios spinning off, and this 100-day reset certainly now underway definitely blew up online, and we're going to look at all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo, as they had an announcement for the Switch 1 where Nintendo's kind of moving on from it, at least in a certain region, but we also had the announcement for a Switch 2 revision, as well as some revisions for the different accessories, so we'll look at all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Also, we're now on Spotify with the show, full video and audio, so if you want to check it out over there, of course, stop by, leave a comment, like, and whatever else is happening over there on Spotify. But we're going to start today with that petition right now that's been running. As you can see, it's accrued more than 150,000 signatures. Now, this is the "Don't Kill the Disc, Tell Sony to Keep Physical PlayStation Games" petition that's ongoing, and it has quickly gained a lot of interest and exposure online. I mean, I know I've said before, the change.org petitions, I don't necessarily think they are going to make massive changes in terms of business decisions at some of these large multi-billion-dollar companies. But as we've mentioned, this is not a small thing that Sony is dealing with right now. It's been about 6 days since they put this out there online, and they have not posted on social media like Twitter or anything since then. They have been posting on YouTube, like different trailers, and even on PlayStation Blog, and even there, it's not going well. I've saw Naughty Dog and some of their other studios put out messages just like advertising things, and those comment sections were filled with, "Hey, what's going on with physical media?" So this isn't really going away for Sony, and if anything, it's actually building and getting louder and louder and louder. So really, at this time, everyone's kind of just hanging out waiting to see what Sony will come back to the internet with, at least on their main PlayStation account. Also, with all the discussion now around physical media, it appears that maybe Xbox is weighing their options for their next generation device. At least we can see. Now, this is over on Pure Xbox, and they are quoting The Verge in a recent report. They say, "I understand Microsoft hasn't fully finalized whether the next generation Xbox, codenamed Project Helix, will ship with a built-in disk drive." Interesting. Now, on the Xbox 2 podcast, Jez Corden did mention that Tom Warren seems like maybe things have actually changed a bit, and it's not shocking that Microsoft, they do change. It almost feels like day to day. I mean, we're about to talk about a 100-day reset, which is rapid at least in terms of like the size of a company with thousands and thousands of employees with Microsoft. So with that in mind, maybe they're looking at things and going, "Oh, this might be an easy win just to have a disk drive there." Now, they also have that disk to digital program, so maybe they also incorporate that. And they're like, "Hey, if you have Xbox One or Xbox Series games, you can go ahead and just move the entitlement to digital or the cloud if you'd like anyway. And so we're going to go ahead and equip it with a disk drive," or even an optional one, which if it's running Windows, I mean, why not? You just sell like a Blu-ray drive little box thing that plugs in through USB, and just let people who have physical media spend a bit extra so they have that option. Oh, and as we're about to get into everything that's happened at Xbox yesterday, there was one piece of news that came out around Game Pass, which you can see. Now, this is over on Wall Street Journal. Reset Era did grab the pertinent quote here, saying the company had projected Game Pass subscriptions would reach around 77 million this year, according to a document revealed during legal proceedings related to the Activision acquisition. It currently has about 30 million. A person familiar with the matter said, I think like a year or two ago, it had 34 million, so they're just working in the wrong direction. It's pretty clear, especially after they put Call of Duty into Game Pass, that it just wasn't going to move the needle. And if Call of Duty is not going to move the needle, not many other games will. It's just, I think they reached a ceiling, obviously, when it comes to Xbox consoles, which is, I think, the easiest way to get someone into Game Pass, as it does appear that cloud or mobile, PC wasn't necessarily going to bolster the subscription service with Game Pass like Microsoft was originally projecting, which then leads us into their plans now, because, go figure, looks like it's shifting away from Game Pass almost completely. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft, as they have now started their 100-day reset officially by making some sweeping changes. I mean, there's some serious stuff happening all at once just about on a Monday. Now, there are still some things that they have to follow through with as they go along, but they have kind of given us their intentions now throughout the next 100-day or so reset. And yeah, that really does come down to resetting Xbox by kind of restructuring everything. And as you figure, that means sweeping layoffs. So we have Asha Sharma, who did show up online to Twitter and put an entire message out there that was quite lengthy, but really going over a lot of the stuff around the business. Very, very transparent, actually, with what they are seeing and what their plans are. But I went ahead and try to break it down to some bullet points and pull a lot of the information, kind of summarize it. But let's start. I do want to start with this bit of the message that she put out, where she says, "Our business today is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. We entered Gen 9 with a smaller install base and a higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. As that happened, our core business weakened, and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing the most severe hardware crisis in its history. We must reset Xbox." Okay, so from here, again, she had a lot of stuff to say in that message. There was also a post that was made over on the Xbox Wire website. But again, I went through and grabbed some of the important information. And then even after all of this, we were getting leaks of information here and there as people were just, you figure, taking to social media and saying, hey, I don't work there anymore, so I'm going to start looking for a job if anyone knows any openings. So let's start from the top here. And that's with Xbox CEO Asha Sharma announcing a restructuring that eliminates approximately 1,600 roles currently, now. And then they're looking to end up at a total of 3,200 positions that will be affected throughout the current fiscal year. Now, Compulsion Games and Double Fine Productions, they have become independent with their intellectual property and catalog. In fact, we have statements from both of them. All right, so let's start with Double Fine, who says, "Once again, Double Fine Productions will be an independent studio. We're thankful to everyone at Xbox for 7 great years together and for working with us to reach an outcome which preserves our history and culture and returns ownership of our games to us." Okay, if we look at Compulsion, says, "Today we're sharing the Compulsion games will return to independent management following our time as part of Xbox. As part of this transition, we will retain the rights to Contrast, We Happy Few, and our award-winning South of Midnight. We're grateful for the years we spent with Xbox, for the support they provided our team, and for the opportunity to bring these games to players around the world. As an independent studio, we're excited to continue building the distinctive games that define Compulsion while taking the next steps in our journey." So both of them now independent, not being shut down, which is good news, of course, because that was always the concern. It's if they can't figure out a way out for these studios, they'll just close them, and that'll be that. And you also would assume any of the intellectual properties that are owned would probably just go in the vault because you don't have the studio that created those games in the first place. So at least they not only leave and become independent, they are taking their games with them. So, I mean, good news there for anyone who's fans, of course, those different franchises. Now, Ninja Theory and Undead Labs, okay, they are joining new ownership. So apparently they're getting funding for Senua and State of Decay 3. Undead Labs did release a statement, this is over on their Instagram, saying, "Today, Undead Labs begins a new chapter. We're transitioning out of Xbox, and while we can't share all the details just yet, we can tell you this, State of Decay 3 is still coming. The team is working hard, and our commitment to this community has never been stronger. More news soon. Survivors stick together." And, I mean, look, State of Decay 3, it's going to be on, you assume, it's going to be on Xbox, right? Man, that would be the game that Microsoft would let get away, and it actually blows up or something, and it's incredible. And that's something that, I mean, I didn't really get into State of Decay 2. The first one was cool. I remember when it showed up on the 360. But man, that'd be one of those things that would come back to haunt Microsoft if State of Decay 3 went off and ended up becoming this big, live service evergreen title or something there. Still though, I'm curious to see, I guess, where the funding came from for both Ninja Theory and Undead Labs. There, again, tight-lipped on that. We'll find out, I'm sure, later on, as a lot of this stuff is still kind of evolving as we go along. As for Arcane Leon, apparently they're reviewing their strategic options, and, Blade did come up, and it seemed to come up as a game that is over budget and is taking a while. It hasn't been canceled or anything yet, we'll say, but I'd like to see Blade come out because it seemed like they were lining that game up to release in 2027. So, I mean, we wouldn't be that far off, you'd assume, of it coming out. Mojang and King are now reporting directly to Asha Sharma. And we'll kind of get to why, as I think that's going to play into things with her current goal for Xbox, all right? So at Minecraft and I guess Candy Crush, you got to go to the CEO if you have any changes you need to make there. Anyway, Jason Schreier does report that id Software and ZeniMax are cutting a significant number of jobs, but they're also going to be focusing on Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein, all right? So they're working on all of those. I'm curious about Quake. Wolfenstein seems obvious. You go to I guess Wolfenstein 3 at this point. And then Doom, I mean, it's kind of an evergreen franchise for them that you figure they'll continue working on there. Like I said, Quake is the one that kind of stuck out to me on that one. Obsidian, though, this is according to Kotaku, lost 60 to 70 employees, and just based on the write-up, the report they had, it kind of seemed like they're all really confused about what they're supposed to be doing. It seems like they're bouncing all over the place, and are we going to be able to get this done with the number of people that have been laid off? So again, I don't know about that one either for Obsidian, which is weird because they have like Grounded 2. It's not, they put games out even. So it seems weird to cut employees there when I would figure they'd be the studio you'd look to have a consistent workflow of titles. But anyway, they say no publicly announced games or projects are canceled. So again, Blade, I guess still out there. This is where things get kind of strange because we heard more and more about the management structure that they had for the last several years, and it sounds bad. So, okay, Helen Shang has been promoted to COO with end-to-end P&L responsibility. So what we learned is that this entire time, Xbox has not been operating with a COO, which, that seems weird. For a company like that, you feel like you would want to have people in charge of things like P&L and the COO at least have a position carved out for that, and I guess they didn't? So, hey, all right, well, there you go. They have one now. Okay, management layers, they're looking to reduce them down. I said, what do you mean reduce them down? Where were they? Apparently, Ash Sharma says they were as much as 14 layers to get stuff done for different games. 14? What? So, okay, all right. Well, they're getting that down to no more than 5 and even looking sometimes to 3. Okay, that sounds much better than 14. You don't want to take to get anything done? Okay. Asha Sharma says, by the way, she wants Xbox to grow to 1 billion players per day. They're currently at roughly 1 billion players per year. So, wow, they want to multiply their current players by 365 then, I guess. Now it makes more sense, right? Why she's having King and Mojang report directly to her, because I would assume that Minecraft is going to get heavy investments. They're going to look to do a lot with that. And yeah, even on the mobile side with King, because if you're looking for 1 billion players per day, that's just more than what we have available, say, for consoles or PC or any of that, really. You're looking to mobile then. That's where you're going to find that number of players. That is an incredible task to try to figure out. And even as I've been recording this and seeing things pop up, it kind of seems like its software is like they are almost like a skeleton crew now. Some are saying that most of the technical developers and coders and stuff are gone, which is weird because id Tech is an engine that, I mean, feels kind of important within Microsoft. You own the engine, and it's a good engine. So look, there were going to be a lot of cuts. We already know that. It was kind of being thrown around a lot as like a bloodbath, and having upwards of 3,600 people being laid off from Xbox over the next 12 months or so, I guess, for the fiscal year. But starting off with like 1,600 or so, and you then start to go, yeah, they have to be pulling people from more than what they're even saying here. And that's how we end up learning about this stuff, again, through social media when people show up and maybe talk to their friends. It's like, yeah, they just laid off like all of us just about. And they go to places like LinkedIn or Blue Sky or Twitter and just start dropping the news. And that's how a lot of this stuff is getting out there. So yeah, we're going to be hearing more and more of this as we go along. It seems like they really want to focus in on like big blockbuster titles, which also seems to indicate that the prior strategy for Game Pass is no more. Remember, there they had to kind of shotgun blast out tons and tons of titles. from first-party studios because they needed to keep the flow constant for Game Pass. But if you're going to go down to a few games, we'll say per year, big blockbuster titles like we'll say your Fallouts or your Elder Scrolls or Halo or Call of Duty, anything like that, then you don't necessarily need as many people as we're seeing now where they're doing the reset. But also, you don't really need to have Game Pass necessarily as the primary focus. And I think that's the other part is we're going to work away from day one releases. The service will continue to get cheaper, maybe as low, depending on how much in terms of benefits they want to remove from it, maybe as low as like $10 to $12 per month. And then I'm sure they would actually see more people subscribing. But if nothing else, for the back catalog of content that's there. But yes, the Xbox reset, the 100-day reset, is certainly underway, and I'm sure we'll be hearing much more about it in the coming months. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Nintendo, as they had a couple of announcements here. We'll start with the first one, and that's for the Switch one, which we can see. Now, this is over on Nintendo Life with a pretty funny headline that says, Nintendo will stop selling the original Switch from February 2027. I mean, if you look into the fine print, it says from mid-February 2027, almost 10 years after the Switch launched in March 2017, Nintendo will no longer sell to retailers hardware in the Switch family of systems, specifically Nintendo Switch, Switch Lite, and Switch OLED model, and this is actually just in Europe, okay? So that's important to note. It's not worldwide, and you might be going, okay, why are they not selling the Switch 1 in Europe any longer? That's kind of interesting that it's that specific region. Well, of course, we talked about how there is like the new regulations that are in effect where you would, in case of Nintendo, have to have a removable battery for your systems, which means they would have to then go back and sort of revise the Switch 1, the OLED, the Lite. They don't want to do that. There's a lot of work for a system that they're definitely not selling as many units of, so there you go. Mid-February 2027, they're out on the Switch 1, at least in Europe. I figure it's going to continue selling elsewhere, so, I mean, they're region-free. You can technically import it if you really want a Switch 1 there. But the other thing that is pretty interesting, they released a whole bunch of information about their revisions for the Switch 2, or their Nintendo products. And I was curious because the Joy-Cons and even the Switch Pro controller, the new one, would also fit under these regulations when it comes to removable batteries. So yes, we have all kinds of information here with updated specifications. So the Switch 2 console, again, they are going to have a removable battery for it. The battery itself, though, is shrinking by 1%. And again, they have to work out how the battery door would open, of course, the battery fitting in. I don't think people are going to notice 1%, like it's shrinking 1%. It's also going to get slightly heavier here, so 10 grams heavier. But if you look at the Joy-Cons, okay, same deal there. The battery will not be changing, but I mean, it'll be slightly different in terms of weight, 2 grams heavier. And then the Switch 2 Pro controller, all right, so this stuff's all hitting autumn or winter for those. But the Switch 2 Pro controller, it's going down to 897 milliamp hours, so 16% smaller, and the weight will be around 7 grams lighter, but you'll be able to remove the battery very easily. And to me, that's good news. Like, being able to get to the battery, I actually think it is worth the trade-off for the smaller capacity, because the Switch 2 Pro controller, the battery life's already very good. So you go down 16% in terms of that, but you could pop the battery out if there's an issue down the road. Maybe the battery is not holding a charge as well, or it balloons, or who knows what can happen with that. Now, the N64 controller, as well as the GameCube controller, same deal, right? You'll have to be able to change those out, but the GameCube controller, it's 5% larger for the battery. So there you go, a slight upgrade if you're getting a GameCube controller in Europe. Now, I would like to think that this is something that will eventually translate over. Let's say that there is like a full revision down the line, like way down the line, like a Switch 2 OLED model or a Switch 2 Lite. They go, you know what, rather than try to break these up by region, let's just design it specifically around the idea of a battery door on the back. I just think that'd be better for consumers outright. So that's my hope. But at least for now, if you're in Europe later on this year, you'll be able to get a Switch 2 with a removable battery and technically Joy-Cons and the Pro controller. So good news there. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, for PlayStation 5 owners, when was the last time you bought a physical PS5 game? 47% say in the last month, 26% say in the last year, 11% in the last 5 years, and then 15% have just never bought a PS5 game physically. So, okay, I mean, if you look at that, in the last year, we'll say, okay, so 73%. Look, people were, looking through here, and the comments are like, yeah, obviously it's going to skew physically, because people who watch YouTube for gaming, I mean, for the most part, they also skew towards being more enthusiasts or very, very in to the hobby and the sector. And I have noticed that, yeah, those people are mostly looking at, oh, I'll buy the game physically. It's nice to have because maybe they're also collectors. Not everyone, as we're seeing. There are people who are just completely digital or don't really think enough about it to where they're like, oh, yeah, I have bought a physical PS5 game in the last 5 years even, which is actually almost the entire generation. But again, the backlash is so overwhelming. It doesn't feel like 15%. So maybe digital owners are also like, hold on, we're eliminating options. Or maybe Sony themselves misjudged exactly how many people are at least somewhat attached or even reliant on physical media. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Tim, who says, I sometimes still watch DVDs on my PS2 with a CRT TV. Okay, I haven't gone that far. I have been thinking more and more about getting like a CRT at some point, but they're kind of hard to find. Shipping is like a nightmare with that anyway, because even if you pay the shipping amount, you don't actually know what's going to show, like what kind of condition it's going to show up in. I just picture it falling off like the shelf inside the, like the UPS truck or something like that. So in that case, I have to kind of look locally. And even then it's like, sometimes people know what they have and they go, I want $500 for this really nice Sony CRT. And I was like, well, okay, never mind there. So I'm still kind of on the lookout. It's just kind of a fun thing. I wouldn't use it every day or regularly or anything, but it would occasionally be nice, as you're saying here, to hook up a PS2 and load up a DVD or just play an older title, because there is still something about that CRT experience, especially with how responsive it is overall. And I mean, come on, you get to hook up the yellow, red, and white cables. That's pure nostalgia right there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear more about the whole situation right now with Sony and them walking away from physical games to start 2028. We did an entire hour-long podcast on it, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.